Right, today we have come to the National Brewery Centre in Burton-on-Trent, the home of Bass Breweries, my grandfather's favourite brewery. So we shall see you inside. Blocking the entrance, sweetheart.
That's all right, I'll Oh.
Go. I don't know why you came up when you don't want to go. Sorry, we're causing chaos wherever we go.
That's fine. No problems.
If not for chaos, it wouldn't cause anything.
I'm the expert at causing chaos.
You're both good at causing chaos.
Wouldn't be any fun in there.
So we've arrived at the museum. We've paid our entrance fee. John paid full price. George paid full price. I got in for free as a carer. You can probably see that it's quite a blustery day, the way these pub signs are all moving about. We've got one over there that says Everard's of Leicestershire, which is quite nice because that's where my dad worked his first job as an auditor for Everard's. So I used to go around and audit different pubs in the Everard's group. We've got the front of the horse-drawn carriage. No, it's the back of the horse-drawn carriage, obviously. What has a giant teapot got to do with the malting floor? Visit the upper level to find out. There's a teapot. It's related to the Norkeys. Traditional floor malting requires a lot of seasonal labour. Something Burton was running short of by the 1870s as the number of maltings in the town grew. The brewer's answer was to recruit Norfolk and Suffolk farm workers to come to Burton after the harvest and work as maltsters. By the 1890s, they were arriving each autumn in their hundreds like an invading army. Christened the Norkeys by the Burtonians, they had to be young, strong and healthy to survive the work in the maltings, where a daily beer allowance helped to make up for the fluid that they lost through sweat. As time passed, many Norkeys settled in Burton and the annual migration slowly died away by 1930. Its memory, however, lives on in many East Anglian names which can be found in the time. And the teapot is popular with the Norkeys, who'd buy them to take home to their families and girlfriends at the end of the malting season. So this is floor malting. This was a traditional method of making malt in this country and was dominant until the 1950s. Steeped barley was spread out over large floors in a thin layer to germinate, each batch being known as a piece. The piece was periodically turned to ensure that it germinated evenly and to prevent growing rootlets becoming matted. Turning the piece was done by hand, the basic tool being the wooden malt shovel, and it was a job which required great skill and stamina. So we've got an exhibit here which shows a man in a big hall, and it looks a bit like an oversized garden fork that he's using to turn over each piece of barley. This is a pneumatic Walter, and John's a pneumatic Walter. Pneumatic malter, and George is going to press the button to make it go. And there it is. It's turning up there, and it's going round to there. It's slowing down to a stop now. So that is pneumatic malting. The brewing process. The brewing process remains the same today as it was centuries ago. It's only the scale of operation and techniques that have changed. Here we can see the reconstructed copper hearth in the brew house of a small public house in the 18th century. The alewife, or brewster, for most of the brewing was done by women in pre-industrial times, would have brewed her ale using the same stages as a commercial brewer of today. So they'd have the grist stage. The malt was passed through a mill to crush it into a grist. Mash tun stage. The grist was then put in a large wooden vessel called a mash tun and mashed or steeped in hot water. Copper stage, the sweet malty liquid or wort was run off from the mash tun and boiled up with hops in the copper. Cooling stage, the liquid from the copper was run off into shallow cooling troughs. Fermentation, when cool, the liquid was transferred to round or square open fermenting vessels where yeast was added. The yeast was then left to work with the liquid, producing alcohol and turning it to beer. And finally, racking. Having skimmed off the excess yeast, the beer was racked into wooden casks of various sizes and left to condition.
There's life that goes into making beer.
Yep. And why did people brew in Burton? And the answer was water, because the Burton water percolating up through the gypsum beds of the Trent Valley proved, by its hardness and mineral content, to be ideal for the brewing of pale beer. And the second reason is transport, because they got the Trent and Mersey Canal. Alright, now we're coming into the mashing room, or the mash room. It's making me think of potatoes.
I was thinking that as well.
Turn handles. This is Archimedes screw. So it's a belt conveyor with a continuous loop to carry green malt from the germination floors to the kiln. So that's an example of how it works.
It stopped for a second.
Well, George is turning a handle.
Can I have a go?
Turning it the wrong way. There you go. The 2002 Jubilee celebrations. To celebrate the Queen's Golden Jubilee and the Museum's Silver Jubilee, the museum hosted a visit by HM Queen Elizabeth II and HRH Duke of Edinburgh on the 3rd of July 2002. During the visit, the Queen and Prince Philip each mashed a commemorative royal brew, the Queen's and Duke's ales. This cabinet contains examples of these special bottle conditioned ales together with their unique display package. So that's a big bottle there. So here's a mashing tub that has a plaque on it that says His Majesty King Edward VII mashed in this tub the 22nd of February 1902. We can have a look inside it as well. And here we're at the fermenting room. Oh gosh, there's a man in there. Those barrels are very big. Oh, and there's his ladder to climb inside. So here, got a little hand cart. I guess people would have gone round selling the beer from the little hand cart. There's the office. Let's have a quick look inside the office. So he'd have been okay. He's got his own little fire, sitting on this rather high chair at this very high desk. But he could look out of his window and see what was going on.
That's a good setup.
And there's where the workers would clock on and clock off. Now in here we've got the drays that they used to transport the beer, although obviously this was to transport people. Here we've got brewer's grain wagon and a barrel dray. So they used to transport beer. We've got a horse in today. This is Jed. Jed is a Shire horse. He's 18 hands and he is black. And he's beautiful. He's absolutely beautiful. So out here we've got some of the vintage vehicles that they used to use for delivery after they no longer used the horses and the drays. So some really nice old cars here. There's a Ford Model T.
Oh gosh, that was
A bit different than our Ford.
a lot different, yeah.
And then coming this way, we've got a Bedford lorry. And we've got one that's the shape of a barrel, a van that's the shape of a barrel from Everard's Brewery.
That had got to be a promotional vehicle.
Yeah, a van that's shaped like a beer barrel. And it says it was delivered to the National Brewery Centre in 2011 by Jim, who used to be the transport manager for Everard's and drove the vehicle to deliveries around Leicester on a daily basis. Chairman of the board used to check every morning that the van had gone out and question why it was still parked up after 9 a.m. Oh, there's one there that's shaped like a bottle. The White Shield bottle car, Worthington's White Shield bottle car. Just on that way. So you can see it's shaped like a bottle. There's the cap. How cool's that? The engine number dates from 1950. The controls are classic vintage Daimler.
If that's shaped like a bottle, what obviously you don't get in the lid thing.
No. The actual neck of the bottle's on the engine. So you sit inside the main body of the bottle.
Okay.
And it says the driver looked forward through a small curved glass in the shoulder of the bottle, but the view was narrow due to the view being impeded by the bottle's neck, which led to complaints from the police.
I could see that.
Due to the threat of the vehicles being taken off the road in the early 1950s, Frank Pretty lowered the neck sufficiently to improve the view. And here we've got a three-wheeled van, a tri-van. So it just has the one wheel at the front and the two at the back, which was restored in the early 1980s. And this was aim was to recreate a vehicle used by Benskin's Brewery in Watford in the mid-1940s. The unique design allows it to turn in its own length, enabling it to operate in small yards previously used by the horse-drawn drays.
I don't think I'd like that.
It says it's surprisingly stable on the road. With a full load, it's possible to go full lock and do a 360-degree turn at a top speed of 20 miles an hour. Welcome to William Worthington's Brewery, and this is the Brewing Heritage Galleries. That's an advert for the museum that we can hear. Got some old cans here.
Oh.
On different beers over the years. And some old pubs. And pubs used to be thriving places, a lot of them are closing down now. This is a water pump. So they used to get the water from the boreholes, as we learned earlier, so this is a water pump. Got some old shaped glasses here. And decanters. They're actually labelled ale. And a beer one there. I want some old Toby jugs. One's actually got a frog in it. They've tilted it on its side, so you can see the frog in it. Designed to give a shock to the unsuspecting as the frog peeps out of the head and the beer. They were made about 1830. Any employee quarrelling or fighting will be liable to instant dismissal, so don't argue. Founders of biochemistry. Beer was made for centuries without any real understanding of the natural processes involved. After Louis Pasteur published his work on fermentation in 1860, great advances were made towards understanding the chemistry of brewing. Burton brewers were among the first in the brewing industry to employ chemists to investigate the mysteries of mashing and fermentation. It says the site also housed the brewery's own joiners and builders, so they designed and built all their new premises themselves. Says during the 20s and 30s, brewers began to spend large amounts of money on improving their pub estates. New pubs were built, some were refurbished and others closed to help finance the improvements. By the 1960s, increased competition forced breweries to invest more money in their houses. Pub customers were demanding facilities other than drinking beer, and many began to provide music, entertainment and food. Lagers were introduced and many houses had their bars and cellars upgraded to allow the serving of the newly developed keg beers. Old style bar, cash register with the different beers on display there, bottled beers. Sort of pub my grandparents would have come to. We've had our day, or our part of a day, at the National Brewery Centre. You get a voucher for a free drink when you come in. You get 3 vouchers. 1 voucher entitles you to a third of a pint, 2 half a pint, and all 3 entitles you to a pint of beer. And under 18s can have a soft drink instead. If you do come in as a carer, where you're not paying the entrance fee, they don't give you any tokens, so I didn't get a drink, but that's fine because I don't like beer anyway. It's accessible for wheelchairs, that's good. The staff are friendly and helpful.
Oh, very friendly.
And it was interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, so we got to learn about how beer is made, we got to see a horse, my new buddy.
Yes, John was quite taken with Jed, the Shire horse. So, anyway, we hope you've enjoyed the video. Thanks for joining us. If you've liked it, please give us a thumbs up. And if you don't already, please subscribe. We do upload videos every week on Friday at 9 AM UK time. So, if you subscribe, you won't miss any of our new uploads.
And also, don't forget that if you like us, tell your friends.
So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.